all on behalf of AMA. I think most of you or all of you would know Mr. Sanjay Chakraborty. So, but still, a short introduction quickly. So, he is going to speak, as you can see, why brands fail. And I'll just run through his brief profile. He is the founder and chief marketing communications advisor at SKC Consultancy. He has been a marketing advertising professional for more than 25 years, and his understanding in consumer behavior, providing market communication strategies to SMEs and to large corporates. He is an expert at that. Uh, Creativity in any field motivates him. He is also a passionate author and columnist. He is a, as many of you would have heard and seen, he's a lively speaker and a seasoned professional, quizmaster, and founder member of Brand Club Gujarat, and is also the chairman of the Public Relations Committee at Ahmedabad Management Association. So before I hand over to him, a small memento on behalf of AMA for him.
सर नमस्ते नमस्ते आइए आइए अरे ये क्यों आगे लगे ओके डिस्प्ले में नहीं आ रहा है चलेगा Okay, thank you very much, Naren sir, for such an elaborate introduction. And I usually say that when you give such elaborate introduction, the expectation of the audience enhances. So that makes me under pressure, right? So our subject is why brands fail. And before we start, let me take you through a curtain raiser. Sound. रहने नहीं चल रहा Do it. Yeah. Restart कर दो. Leave it, leave it.
हेडफोन में करते हेडफोन में बस एक बार
Leave it. Okay. So we have this interesting topic called why brands fail. Now, can you imagine this? Yeah. Or can you imagine this? So why brands fail? It's a curtain raiser for this. Okay, that's why the brands fail. But before we start about why brands fail, we should quickly understand what is a brand. So what's a brand? Who will say me this? Students, what's a brand? Whatever comes to your mind. We are good. Yeah, please. Okay, nobody understood this. Okay, but it's good that you explain. Anybody else want to add something? Oh, yeah, please.
इसका नाम सुनते ही वो प्रोडक्ट दिख जाए, जैसे पार्ले जी तो सीधा बिस्किट दिख जाता है.
Okay, I'll explain you in a different way, which is my close to heart example, which I always give it. These are two bottles filled from the same bottling plant. One has got Bada Biscuit, the other one doesn't have a label. Now your choice, which one to choose? Which one will you choose? Bada Biscuit. So I'll do something. I'll charge you 10 rupees and the other one 8 rupees. Now tell me which one will you buy? Bada Biscuit. People usually say that when you give sales promotion schemes, you can do a dent to the brand. So I give you sales promotion, एक pouch free साथ में. Now which one will buy? Why are you not buying the other one? No. आप trust नहीं. As a consumer सोचो. Why are you not buying the other one? Label. Somebody said label. Can you raise his hand? Yeah. So you said label. So done. I'll give you a label. You said label, and I'm giving you a label. So now you should buy it. Still you will not buy this. What else? Quality, assurance, trust, peace of mind, right? Yeah. So what is happening here is that you are buying because it's trustworthy, it has got reliability, it has got peace of mind, and it has got quality, right? Actually, we never bought mineral water. I said it's filled from the same bottling plant. I kept it in front of you, but you were insisting नहीं मुझे खरीदना तो वही खरीदना because I buy trust, I buy peace of mind, I buy something called reliable, and I buy the quality. Actually, consumers don't buy the product because it's already given for granted. So brands do what? Brands do all this. So they give you beyond a product. So this was just a mineral water bottle filled from the same bottling plant. But in fact, you paid me 2 rupees more because you wanted to buy something which is trustworthy, reliable, peace of mind, quality, right? That's the brand. Same way, all of you, majority of them, you will be wearing watch. कौन सा watch पहनते हो आप? Boat. Who else? Fossil. But tell me one thing, the Fossil watch or any other watch shows a different time? Has the same time? Actually, you're not buying to see the time, but you buy to show your time has come. Right? So you do that because actually all the watches show you the same time. So even if I'm buying it from a local street, road से भी खरीदता हूँ तो उतना ही time बताएगा जितना Omega बता रहा है, जितना Fossil बता रहा है. But then why do you buy? You buy because you get something else than that. Time to is taken for granted. Beyond that, you see, okay, it is reliability, it shows my position, it is status and all that. Giving another example, when you see this, what comes to your mind? Oh, or what else? News, what else? Masala, register mein ho gaya, sir. Masala news, aliens, right? When you see this, what comes to your mind? Oh, sophisticated, authentic, truth, decent, right? But believe me, the raw material for both the channels are same. If I fall from the 9th floor, I'll fall from the 9th floor for India TV also and BBC also. But India TV will add masala and tell that he has fallen. He was wearing this trouser, that shirt and all that, and will create a masala news. But believe me, if I go to Rajesh Sharma and tell him that today evening when I was sitting there, people spoke about a brand as a masala channel, he will be the happiest person. Because that was the vision. Right? जब लक्स के अंडरवियर और बनान के ऐड करते हैं तो हम इंडिया टीवी में जाते हैं. जब जॉकी करते हैं वी गो टू बीबीसी. बहुत क्लियर डिस्टिंक्शन है. So when I want to buy Audi, Mercedes, I see the ad in BBC. Whereas if I want to buy an Maruti 800, I'll go to India TV. The distinction is very, very clear. Right? So what is it? It's a vision. I need to decide what I need to be perceived. So when the why is clear, how becomes very easy. So that's the truth of branding, right? So what's a brand? It is more than a name or a symbol. So as you said, it's just an identity. It's more than that. It's a physical and the psychological attribute of a product which a consumer perceives. The physical was bottle, dhakkan, pani was all physical. The psychological was peace of mind, assurance, and all that. And brand has a vision. Always have visions. Interestingly, building age and become dilapidated. मतलब कि age हो जाती है, झरझर हो जाती है building. Machines wear out, people die. But what lives are brands. So brand is a perception, is an image. Brand is the trust, faith, and emotion. Brand is overall experience. So why I'm saying overall experience, it's not just when I interact with you. I may interact with you at your office. Or why Audi is not sold in a street? Because they want to give you an experience of buying an Audi. So that is what is brand. It's an overall experience. It's just not limited by advertising or buying a product, but it is an overall experience which you have with the brand. So Your brand is the single most important investment you can make in your business. A lot of examples, even from Gujarat, you will see Paras Pharmaceutical, you will see Hamor. So the valuation might be 350 crore, but they sold it in 1100 crore. How do they do that? Because that was the single most investment people have done it for years, right? And quickly telling you about certain brand myths. These was brand. Now there are myths also. Galatfahmi hoti hai na. The myth is that if your product is good, it will succeed. It's a myth. Unless you communicate about it, it will not work. Brands are most likely to succeed than fail because we have a brand, so it will always succeed. That's a myth. Big companies will always have brand success, not necessary. I'll take you through some example with the biggest companies in the world have made mistakes. Or strong brands have built only on advertising. People say advertising kar liya to sale ho jayega. No, there are other four P's, there are other 3 P. Product should be good, price should be appropriate, it should be available in the place which you want, then the promotion comes. And if something is new, it's going to sell. Very difficult. It may not be sold for a longer period of time. Strong brands protect products. Yes, but it may sometimes not protect. So why brands fail? That's the topic of the day. Consumers don't truly believe that there is a huge difference between products, which means brand has to establish emotional ties with the consumers. If you don't have an emotional tie, it's not a brand. However, emotions aren't to be messed with. Once a brand has created that necessary bond, it has to handle with care. So when you have created a brand image, you have to handle it with care. Why all brands fail? Sometimes happen because of why you break the bonding between the consumer and the brand, that time the brand starts failing. This is not always the fault of a company. Many other factors can be dependent on failing because it can be the economical scenario, it can be the atmosphere which is there. In Corona, many of the companies failed. So that can be the reason. So why brand failed? I'll give you one by one very interesting examples and what are they called. So why brands fail? The first situation is position amnesia. What does that mean? Position amnesia is when a brand forgets what it is and what it stands for and tries to experiment with its new identity and positioning to an extent that they totally are into a different route. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Let me ask you, what did the SunTrust Bank in Atlanta have in a safe deposit box between 1925 to 2011? And I'm sure everybody might have consumed at least once in a lifetime. What was it which was in the SunTrust Bank in Atlanta, which was there as a deposit, in the safe vault? Can someone guess? It was the Coca-Cola formula. Right? The Coca-Cola formula now displayed in the world as Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta. So what mistake they made? So, right? So they were under pressure. Pepsi was doing very well. So one fine morning after a lot of discussion, they thought they will change the taste and make it better and sell a new Coke. So they came out with a new Coke. With over 1 billion drinks sold every day, Coca-Cola was surely one of the most loved brands of the world. It also committed one of the biggest marketing blunders of all time. In the late 90s, 70s, and 80s, it was evident that Pepsi had a better marketing campaign from Coca-Cola. So what they did, hence Coca-Cola, instead of modifying the marketing strategies, saw only solution to problem was to create a new Coke with better and improved taste. So that's not always true. By launching new Coke, Coca-Cola contradicted its previous marketing efforts, all the efforts which they did for last 50 years, spent more than 50 years. And there was an emotion of happiness there. So in their original product, they had it, and hence it backfired. So they were forced to bring back the old Coke in their stable. That was one of the mistakes which they made. When there is something very interesting, Icarus paradox. It is overconfidence. Icarus paradox is a Greek story. And the story tells that Icarus, who burnt his feathers after flying too close to the sun, because he was overconfident. People have warned him. So this may happen with the brands also. Similarly, many big companies often burn their wings because of their overconfidence and extensive and unscientific use of some rules. Giving you an example, let me ask you, can you guess the brand? Kellogg's. So cornflakes, Kellogg's. So what they did, they thought they will come to India and be successful because people would shift to this and they will forget about their subeka chapati and bread. right? And it never happened like that. They miserably failed because they were overconfident that the entire world keeps in the morning breakfast table. But here, and in other countries, they have cold milk and they can have it with cold milk, this conflicts. But in India, we don't have this habit. So when you put in the hot milk, soggy ho jata hai wo. So they did, and also they kept an expensive price so that uska ek novel value rahe. But it backfired, it failed, miserably failed. These are big brands, not small brands. Now there is something called deception. Deception is a very interesting thought. When the marketing strategies are to build to cover the reality, the brand doesn't last very long. So there is something which is reality, they don't want to cover it, but they don't long. So it's true that everything can be told to the consumer, fine. But the product has to be complemented to the brand promise which they make, and company should not be in the doldrum. Let me ask you, which automobile's first logo? Volkswagen. So what did they do? Now? Yeah. So in India, yeah. So in the world, what they did in 2015, which was known for reliability, performance, and environmental credential, Volkswagen has hidden and duped emission testing in their cars, right? So as soon as the truth about 11 millions of his vehicle been equipped with software program to dupe emission testing was out, there was no looking back. So the deceptive brand promise happened and it had to take it back. Interesting one, lack of change. So sometimes brand don't change and they don't embrace the innovation, right? They fail to innovate. Let me ask you, yeah. So you heard about this? So they collapsed from the country because they were master in hardware and they never focused on the software. Whereas the other brands were coming up with the new softwares, Nokia were into their old laurels, yeah, and they had to leave the country, right? So it had major shares in the market, but from shifting from hardware to software was very, very difficult for them. So hence Apple and other companies like Samsung were able to crush Nokia and succeed comparatively in this very short span of time. तो होता है ना, हम बड़ी कंपनी, हमको क्या चेंज करने की, हमने तो after all we created it, and they don't see that. So the lack of change can also miserably affect you. Then there is something called brand ego. It's an interesting one. It's that sometimes a successful brand, because of its ego, may get the feeling of megalomania and plans to spread its hand every possible product. So what is megalomania? Condition in which a person has an exaggerated belief in his own power and importance. So I'll give you one question. From the jumble words, identify the brand name of a popular magazine. You heard about it, Cosmopolitan was a very famous magazine. So they had a brand ego that whatever we touch, it will be Midas touch. So whichever category we extend, it will be successful. But unfortunately, what happened? They came out with yogurts, Cosmopolitan yogurts. Nothing to do with the brand, and it miserably failed. So brand ego, कि हम जो करेंगे बराबर ही करेंगे, and it miserably failed because it was an edible product, nothing to do with the magazine. Okay, brand paranoia, the feeling of fear and suspicion of any people illness which you wrongly believe and other people want to harm. There is a brilliant example on this. I'll just take you through that. Let me ask you, identify the logo symbol. So what happened with BlackBerry? So BlackBerry went into fear कि मुझे competitor खा जाएगा, because a competitor आया, Apple आया, तो I will be vanished. So they take wrong steps in that because they have paranoia कि यार डर लगता है. So what they did? It's a very interesting case. BlackBerry was one of the market leaders in 2007, just before when the iPhone was launched. BlackBerry didn't consider the iPhone to be competition, perceiving that it would be enhanced mobile phone with some playful feature targeted to young consumers. तो उसको चिंता नहीं हुई, एक नए फीचर के साथ एप्पल आया है and it is focusing to the new age customers, so we should not worry. This was where BlackBerry went wrong. iPhone turned out to be an instant hit and started to eat much market share of BlackBerry and is appeal to business professional as well. Okay, so BlackBerry, afraid of this new competition, did release a touchscreen smartphone with Storm. But this impulsive move was focused just to curb the competition and wasn't backed by research at all. So this product was failure. It was not working. But because they were afraid of the competitor to come, they came out with this feature without doing any research. Hence, the company received many complaints about the device performance. This put even more pressure on the company and started to lose its market share. So BlackBerry did try to come back with the launch of Playbook, but it could not do the same magic which they did it earlier. So it's called paranoia. So we are talking about focus. So we are focusing on failure. Why focusing on failure? Because sometimes failure teaches you more than the success. Businesses should follow and learn from others' success and failures in order to better understand and predict your own. Right? So we may learn more than failures, and you can take steps accordingly. Okay. So why focus? Helping to prevent future failures in your own companies. Studying brand failures may generate some insight into the reason for those failures and create the list of factors that may increase the opportunity to success. To identify key danger areas. So I'll take you quickly through some examples. The inspiration which I got it from this book by Matt Haig, where he has mentioned 100 companies which miserably failed because mistakes. Okay, so let's dig out from the graveyard of brands the story which lost their lives. Brand stories, right? Classic failures. So we designated as classic failures, which is that. So classic failures doesn't have to have something particularly bad in order to flop. The classic failures highlights basic fundamental marketing errors. I'll give you an example, which is very interesting. You heard about a brand called Ford cars. So this was a classic example of failure. How? So Ford decided to come out with this car, and they created a lot of hype. For last 3 months, they've been writing in the newspapers everywhere that it is one of the best models of car which will be there, brought to you by Ford. So they did in the entire US research that what should it be named. So they did naming research and all that, and they had various naming options. Then they hired the best poet in America to give you a name. So they also didn't like it. Then suddenly Henry Ford II, who was the third generation of Ford, he came out with a name called Edsel. Now Edsel was his father's name. So nobody could refuse that name. Because when he said, why can't we keep this name as Edsel? Because it was his father's name. So nobody stopped. A. Secondly, they created such an hype that all the dealers were supposed to stock the car, but they can't display the car. You have to keep it under the car, मतलब पर्दे के अंदर ही रखना है, उसको display नहीं करना. If you do that, you will be fined and you may also lose your franchisee. So a lot of hype was created. But when the car came, it was miserably flopped because hyping an untested product was a mistake. Your name matters. Okay, looks count. So look was not so great as they were speaking. Right, price is important. They also heavily priced it, but it failed. The right research is important to the right things. They did a research for naming it, but not the product. Companies like Ford also make such mistakes. So quality is also important. Idea failures. Why a brand fails? Because of the bad idea. So idea failures can be an idea which has not been properly researched and they are floated in the market. So how do bad products appear in the first place? If the consumer doesn't want them, your idea may be flop. You may have a great idea, but the consumer may not require it. So one such example, which RJ Reynolds, a company, very famous MNC, came out with. They came out with smokeless cigarettes. So it doesn't matter to anyone. The guys who are smoke was never a problem to them. Right? So they came out with smokeless cigarettes case में smoke नहीं निकलेगा और आप cigarette पिए. So people who smoke never liked it. Because smoke was never a problem for them. So that is what happened. And people who were not smoking also didn't matter to them because they were anyway not going to smoke because you are giving a smokeless cigarette. So this is what happened. So don't baffle consumers with research. Why create a product for consumer who has nothing to do with you? So don't try to sell ice to cocker spaniels. Cocker spaniels, they get terrified in the 7 degree. और उनको आप जाके बर्फ बेचोगे तो नहीं बिकेगा. So you are doing the same attribute which you did it for RJ Reynolds smokeless cigarette. Pepsi came out with an AM, a range which should be taken in the morning when you get up. So it was named Pepsi AM. So what happened? Pepsi saw कि यार शाम को सब पीते हैं, दिन को पीते हैं, सुबह कोई नहीं पीता. There's a gap. So let us come out with a brand called Pepsi AM. So they wanted that chai or coffee छोड़ के for the caffeine you should have Pepsi. And it failed, right? So Pepsi had an overestimated the public's appetite and carbonated wake-up call. So no person or no student wanted a carbonated wake-up call. Coffee and tea remained the preferred morning drink for the people. Don't just fill the gap because you need to fill the gap. So don't do this. And also it happened like that. Extension failure means you extend your brand to different product category. Like Maggi, you have Maggi noodles, so you have Maggi sauces, masala. Same way you extend it. So there are some extension mistakes which people made. There was a painkiller ointment called Bengay, right? So what they did, Bengay was very successful and it was a rub, pain relieving rub. So they thought, oh, we should come out with another one which is in the form of tablet. So Bengay aspirin tablet came. So you don't have to, do it like it's an Iodex ka agar tablet aayega to piyoge, khaoge. So that is what happened. So these people did this and they thought it will be overnight success, but it was a burning issue they had to face. So don't just extend. Another one, Colgate came out with kitchen entries, pastas, salads, Colgate, and they thought it will run, but it didn't work. So you can't just keep on extending yourself. Pond's toothpaste was there. They did this effort once to come out with a Pond's toothpaste. So this is a wrong brand extension. You heard about Cheetos? Yeah. So they came out with lip balm for the kids, teens. Like, तो Cheetos है तो उसका lip balm भी लगाएंगे तो बच्चों को जाएगा 17 years के होंगे तो should go there. No. Right. So there was another brand Q. So what happened? They came out. So here, what happens here? The name is wrong. Q came out with toothpaste in the same market where there was a porno magazine which was there, adult magazine which was there, also called Q, and they launched in the same market. They thought toothpaste will work. No, it didn't work. This is an Indian example, a very nice one. You heard about Ceasefire many years back. There's a brand called Ceasefire. It was very popular, and they had compact fire extinguishers. So one fine morning, they all thought, and after a lot of discussion, they came out with a vacuumizer. Now this real value vacuumizer was, I remember very well, this was taken in the ads on Sunday evening movies. That time Sunday ko Z TV was the TV which was there, Doordarshan was the TV. Sunday ko शाम को बैठ के सब movies देखते थे. So they blocked all the ads, and whenever you see in the break, you will see vacuumizer ki ad. At that time, they have spent 2 crores in a day, single day, in advertising. But they forgot that people don't require this. Housewives don't use this much. So it backfired all the expenditures. So they had to close real value also. जो फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर है इतना नुकसान हुआ कि वो तो गया और ये भी गया, right? So don't just extend. Understand the consumer wants and needs before extending the category. Sometimes may be too early. Okay. Pricing failures when you launch a product but the pricings are very high. Beetle, nobody want to buy in a cost of 30 lakhs. So it happened in India also. So when the expensive price tag, the overprice failed to woo the Indian market. PR failures, your area, sir. PR failures. So a lot of PR failures happened. I'll give you, not take you through the content, I'll just give you the example. So Perrier's benzene contamination. Perrier was known for the purest water in the world. And they had a contaminated benzene inside. It was found there. So what they did, a brand whose whole identity was based around the idea of natural purity, company set up so when the crisis came, what they did, they didn't come to the press. They never spoke to the press. They had come out with a 24-hour hotline. In UK, Perrier refused to see it as a global issue. They said, "ये तो locally है, कोई problem नहीं है." But because it happened regionally, it affected the global brand. And they had established a 24 hours call center. They never came to the press. So you know what will happen. There were mixed messages, contradictory and conflicting, incorrect information statement emerging from different divisions. So it was a big PR failure. So the lesson is, don't hide the truth. don't breach the customer's trust, except the global brands need coherent communication policies. Similar case with Jabbers. It's a baby food, right? So here, there were glass shards were found in the jars. So what the local Maryland state ने क्या किया? They sued few of the stores of theirs. जहाँ पे जर्बर बिकते थे वो सब दुकानों को बंद कर दिया तो गवर्नमेंट ने बंद किया तो they filed a case against them. Rather than coming forward and saying a public response to the crisis or to provide information, what they did, they started filing against, they started legal suit against the police department of Maryland. It was the biggest blunder because you have to come forward, you have to speak about it, and you have to act tough. If you know it is happening in the channel of distribution, if something has gone wrong, then you should be very tough and bring him to the notice and bring him to the people that because of this. Instead of that, they just made a 24 hours call center, and also they filed a case against the Maryland. So this was a big blunder which happened. Culture failure is a very interesting thing when we don't understand the culture and just launch it. Cultural failure, many companies have confused the era of globalization with an era of homogenization. Success with one product in one market doesn't ensure the success to the another. If you're successful in India, it doesn't mean that you will be successful in the other countries. Okay. In order to succeed, brand must cater for the specific taste of each market they cater. If this taste changes, then the brand must also change. So what happened to Hallmark? You know what is Hallmark? Those greeting cards. So you go to the shop, if you want to wish someone, they have all the categories: sister, brother, girlfriend, boyfriend, friend, everyone. So there are cards which are available. But in France, they don't like somebody writing for you the message. They personalize it. So Hallmark thought it will be successful there with pre-printed messages. But French don't like this. In France, they don't like it. They want a personal written message to be given in all the wishes. So it miserably failed there. So they didn't understand the cultural nuances of the country. So Hallmark in French, brands need to acknowledge cultural differences. Another example, Chevy Nova in Spain. These are popular everywhere. But in Spain, Nova means it doesn't go. And they launched this brand without understanding कि वहाँ पे लोग कैसे perceive करेंगे. So Chevy Nova was again a flop just because you named it in a different way. Okay. This was another interesting example. Hilarious mistakes can happen even to such big companies like Mercedes-Benz. When the company entered the Chinese market, they wanted to keep a name which looks like Benzi. So what happened? They kept it Benzi, Mercedes-Benz. But Benzi in that language means rush to die. A company like Merck also did such mistakes. Okay. Wix in Germany, right? You heard about Volkswagen? It's never V, it's Volkswagen. So in Wix also they had problem. So V was sounding as F. So the whole brand name backfired. So it is never pronounced as V, it is pronounced as F. And so your name was there. Another interesting example, when special edition of Air Force One was launched, so they had this monogram. So the monogram, जब अलग-अलग पढ़ते हो, fa and fu. Okay, which means prosperity and luck. But when you combine it, it means get fat. So it again flopped there. This is a very interesting. German, you have Gerbers mein, you have this little cute boy staring at you in the bottle packaging. But in African market, they're not so literate, and they're used to find कि जो bottle में photo है वही चीज का बना होगा अंदर का material. So when they show this kid, they said food made for babies, नहीं, the food made of babies. So they did this. So same way, in our case also, once some African companies came to us and they wanted to do the packaging of condensed milk. So all Indian designers will do what? गाय लगाएंगे, गाय दिखाएंगे, खेत दिखाएंगे, दूध दिखाएंगे. So we also did the same mistake. But actually they explained us you cannot show such products. You have to show other things. This otherwise people will understand कि ये cow का या beef का कटा हुआ कुछ material है अंदर in African market. So you have to understand that. Campaign failures, cultural failures. Sometimes brands come out with campaigns, tactical campaigns. And that can also be failure because they didn't understand the cultural nuances of that country. So what happened here? Remember to do your research. United Airlines unknowingly got off the wrong foot during the initial flights from Hong Kong. To commemorate the occasion, they handed the white carnation to the passengers. कोई passenger आता है उसको white फूल का गुलदस्ता दिया जाता है. When they learned that too many Asians, white flower represents bad luck and even death, so they changed the red carnation. So they thought it is usual and they did that. McDonald's and Coca-Cola used both promotion campaigns showing their flags of 24 World Cup participant 1950. Muslims were offended by use of Saudi flag, which carries significant religion symbols for Muslims. So they showed it this way, they cannot show it on the foot. So again, cultural thing. So unintentionally offensive. In honor of 40th National Day of United Arab Emirates, Puma launched a new shoe design featuring the country's flag in the shoes. And it backfired. So these are some mistakes. I fail to understand why they don't think like that. They can't make such mistakes. But they did this. People failure, we have a lot of people failure. One of the people failure is where the person who owns the company is the CEO as the brand. And if he makes the mistake, the brand also has a dent of it. Right? So for example, you have heard about the story of Kingfisher. So okay, the economies didn't work and all that, but the biggest blunder was made by the gentleman himself. And very interestingly, he was the CEO because Kingfisher as a liquor brand was anyway not allowed to advertise. So he was the ambassador of that brand, and he was the brand perception which was created because of him. At the end, he was having party at the 60th anniversary, and people in the company was not paid salaries. So these are people failure. So you have to be very, very careful. Don't lie. Be empathetic. When people want to get salary, I will not celebrate my birthday. Calling all the film stars. Okay, be open. Another example of people failure. Now these ladies were very famous in modeling. Okay, so they started a fashion cafe, all the four of them. And after starting in 2 months, they had fight among each other. So when the press came, they started blaming the other females. And they started doing this, and the cafe had to be closed. So this what happened when you have. So from catwalks to catfights. Yeah. So don't follow a failing formula. Planet Hollywood was already struggling in 1995 when the fashion cafe was launched. Have a logical brand association. Don't say unkind and critical things about somebody, especially when he or she is not there in the room. Rebranding failures. So when you start rebranding without thinking, that can also take you to the death. One fine morning, Price Waterhouse wanted to change the name. So they came out with a name called Monday. They wanted to say that Monday we are as fresh as every day. Whereas majority of people didn't want to go on Monday. And there was no link between Price. Now it is PwC. But in between they wanted to spend a lot of money to establish the brand called Monday. So now they come up with another example of PwC. Royal Mail was one of the 300 years old brand, and they wanted to modernize it and compete with FedEx and UPS. So after a lot of brainstorming, they came out with a name called Consignia, which was very difficult to pronounce, no link to this. So they were forced to come back with the same name. So don't do the rebranding for the sake of doing a rebranding. I'll give an example. I don't know why they did this rebranding. Mozilla was named like this name. Just because you change, so you do this. It is very dangerous to do this. Learning, don't deviate from your formula. Don't compete with irrelevant rivals. Don't be scared of your logo. Okay. New technology failures, many of us know. Because of new technology, many products or many brands failed. You heard about Kodak? So lack of innovation led to demise of photography giant. This was a giant. Once upon they were the number one in the world. So when the digital cameras came, they didn't bother to change. They didn't take it very nicely, this technology which was changing. And they had a miserable time. And also Kodak was very slow to respond to the technical changes or technology changes were happening. So internet, when you enter the world of internet, it is very less control on the brand message. Anybody can write anything for you, right? So take it very seriously. Intel Pentium is one of the example. When in 1997, a professor of mathematics found a glitch in Intel's Pentium chip. He discovered that the mathematical functions for a chip complicated formula were not consistently accurate. And he wrote it on the social media, on the internet area, and people started following it up, and they had to take it out because they didn't take it very seriously. Okay, this was coming up from a technology company. So in today's world, you have to be very, very, very sure because you may not advertise, but there is someone who's advertising about you. Right. Timing failure is one of the nice example. You heard about Iridium. Iridium was a company which came out with satellite phones before the mobile phone came into the world. So they came out with a satellite phone which can be used anywhere in the world. But that time we didn't have mobile phones. So it was unique, very expensive, and the technology was very good. And the baseline which they gave was where geography is history. That was a thought. But actually company became history. Because it was too early. People had not gone through pages, and they will not go through mobile phones, and they came out with satellite phones, and they had to close down. But it was a brilliant product, but it was before time, so it failed. So why brand failures? I gave you the example: classic failures, idea failures, extension failures, PR failures, cultural failures, people failures, rebranding failures, internet and new technology failures. Right? So till that time, I was giving some examples. So as I will repeat, the brand is an overall experience. It's just not something external. आपने advertising कर दी, TV में ad दिखा दिया, that is external. But what is internally happening is very, very important. That can create a dent in your brand image. What I say outside and what I do inside, which is very peculiar in our state. So I may say something very nice words outside, but when I actually practice it, I don't practice it. So that can build a dent in your brand image. Every piece of communication which comes out of the company or brand makes a lot of difference in your image. Whether it's a letterhead, with a visiting card, or anything which you speak is a piece of communication which goes out. So dent on the brand image, I'll give you certain cases or certain things which happens because it creates a dent. It may not permanently close up or you have to take out the brand out of the market, but it creates a dent. Give you an example. You heard about ICICI Bank? Many years back, they came out with a campaign with Shah Rukh Khan. And that time he had a movie called Main Hoon Na. So they came out with a campaign saying, Hum Hai Na. So it was around 4 crore spent, and he was everywhere shouting, Hum Hai Na, Hum Hai Na. Hum Hai Na gave an perception to the consumer that if you deal with this bank, you don't have to bother because they are taking the responsibility saying, Hum Hai Na. Actually, this was done only on the top level where Shah Rukh Khan and the managing directors were sitting and making this ad campaigns with the agency. But when you go to a bank, you don't meet the branch managers or neither the owners. You meet the teller or the cashier. It felt like Hum Hai Na instead of Hum Hai Na. Because they didn't have any clue about the campaign happening and what are they expected to do. So they will create a dent in the brand image because you are expecting a lot from them. Now you go to the bank, sir, आपने तो बोला हम है ना, आपको कोई solution तो आता ही नहीं है, lunch time है, बाद में आना, है ना? So this all happens. So it shows like हम है ना. So this is what happens in real life. Commitment versus adherence. When you promise, you don't deliver. So we do an agreement, and we say that 30th को आपको salary, आपको 30 days के बाद payment मिल जाता है. Invariably, we have seen it has never been paid after 30 days unless you follow it up. I'm not saying everyone, but I've seen experience where on the 30th day you lose the bill. Invoice खो गया. फिर invoice मिल गया है तो एक sign हुआ है, दूसरा sign नहीं हुआ है. Right? So it takes another 30 days. So why commitment? Don't you think it is creating an image of the organization to the entire world? So what you promise, you deliver. Right? Branding is not a department. It's everybody's job. It's not brand management है तो वही build कर रही brand. It is everywhere, every department. So you meet me here, you give me a visiting card, and you say that we are the best companies in the world. And tomorrow I call you. So the receptionist says, क्या काम था? कौन हुआ आपको करवाना हुआ तो? सो काम हो? That image is gone. So that person played an important role in creating a perception of my brand's image in the outside world, because first interaction is with that person. So everyone is responsible to create a brand, and everybody can have the similar capacity to damage a brand, right? Branding is a belief, and it's just not a advertising line, right? When I say 100% safe, then it better be 100% safe. You have to believe that and then come out with an advertising campaign rather than just making a nice advertising campaign trustworthy since 1942, and nobody trusts you here. So you should see that. right? So in the entire session, the learning was brand is a perception image. Please ensure it when the image has been intact with you. Brands are emotional bonds and are relationship oriented. It's not just product, there is an emotion which is attached. Never underestimate the power of brand. Market research is the most important aspect. Keep auditing your brand value and elements contributing to your equity. Health report, you should keep doing that in frequent intervals. Investment matters. When you invest, it matters. Is advertising and branding में you have to invest. Share of voice may not be necessarily share of market. What does this mean? मैं बहुत जोरदार advertising करता हूँ और बहुत पैसा खर्चा करके करता हूँ, but it doesn't mean that you will have the same share of market because you spend more. There are many other factors which involved into this, right? Don't rest on all old laurels. Keep it relevant. So I was a king in 1942, so I'll remain the king in 1999. No, it's not true. So you have to keep relevant. Never underestimate that Davidism is power of being small. Never underestimate the small guys. David is a small guy and Goliath was a big guy. It was very difficult, like an immensity, to move and respond. A David will be flexible to respond, take quick decisions. So they can be a big challenge to companies like that. And we have a lot of such examples in Gujarat itself. Nirma was a small brand and showed lessons to everyone. So these are the examples which are there. So learn from failures, love customers, not just products. So you should love the consumers. नहीं मैं तो product अच्छा है, consumer को चलाना नहीं आता, मैं क्या करूं? You cannot say that. Consumer को नहीं आता तो मैं क्या करूं? Consumer ऐसे बेवकूफ हैं. You are in love with your product, not with the consumers. If he is not able to operate it, it's your problem, right? So there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure, right? Thank you.
We'll have time for some questions. So, anyone has questions, please raise your hand.
Any question which comes to your mind here? All answers shorted. You have students are there. Students, any questions? Yeah, please. Mike, sir. We'll come to you.
Good evening, sir.
Very good evening.
So I wanted to know that when we talk about Tata Nano, and when it was launched, it sort of completely failed. So according to you, what went wrong when we talk about Tata Nano in terms of branding?
See, it was having a lot of problems. When it initially came, it created a lot of attraction, but it miserably failed because it was perceived as a low-cost vehicle. You always had a guilt of not buying that product. कि मैंने इसलिए खरीदा क्योंकि मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है. That was clear indication because they advertised like that, right? And it had nothing here, no space, nothing. So these were few of the failures which, yeah. So it was attributed to the failures of Tata Nano. There are multiple examples, but I picked up few important examples. But that was also one of the examples. वो उसको बोलते हैं लक ठकिया बोलते थे उसको. तो लक ठकिया was that लाख की गाड़ी इतनी आएगी. So you have to give some aspirational value to the brand. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, Sanjay, I'm just giving you a recent
Yeah.
campaign which is going on television.
Yeah. See.
There is already a brand, that is Tata Salt, which is available at 7 to 8 rupees a kilo. And then there is a brand coming in a small, portion, being sold at 80 rupees per unit, and that is Puro Salt. How do you assess the longevity of this brand?
Of 80 rupees one? 80 rupees one?
Yeah.
See, it may be targeted to people who may be buying in bulk, but it is very difficult to create a dent to Tata. It will take huge time.
Yeah, but what will be the longevity of this brand?
Of 80 rupees one?
Puro.
Pure. See, sir, it will long because people believe they give you an ingredient which is very organic in nature and all that. They give you all the attributes to that product. So they think when they have these things, it will work. है ना? तो perception create करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. But I feel that the better option would have been that they would come out with smaller samples, tested in the market, and then realize. People sometimes think if you are pricing heavily, it's a good material. But Indian consumer don't take it that way. Because salt is a basic thing and people have been consuming since ages the same thing, and usually nothing happens to them. So it may be.
It is kind of a confidence of 400 par.
Yeah. So होता है ना सर, अभी कुछ examples दिया. Yeah, overconfidence.
I am talking confidence.
Yeah.
Sir, what is a failure for the failure by the social media? Social media nowadays it is acting a main role for the failures of the products.
See what happens. Brand has this advantage कि वो एकदम से नहीं करेंगे. Strong brands don't fall like this. That's why it's important to create brand. But there can be a temporary dent in the brand image. So social media is a दो-धारी तलवार. अच्छा भी हो सकता है, खराब भी होगा. So you have to keep monitoring it. You cannot avoid any complaints which have been given. So the team, in a few of our clients, we make sure that if there's a complaint, we answer it properly. Accept it if there is a mistake done. That may enhance your brand image rather than keeping quiet and not answering it. So this is an opportunity when you show what type of culture you have in the organization. So it is a very dangerous thing. You have to keep monitoring it. You cannot ignore कि आपने एक website बना दिया और people are commenting or that Google में review दे रहे हैं, nobody is answering it. So you have to have focused thought because it may take long to do this. Yeah. Quickly. Yeah.
How do we take preventive measures or preemptive measures before we see a failure in a brand?
So that is what I was telling you, that you have to do a proper research. If you don't do, I'll give you an example. I often give this example to many places. When you see a Dettol का bottle, Dettol में क्या खराबी दिखती है आपको? Dettol होता है ना antiseptic lotion. So if I ask you what are the two things which are not good in antiseptic lotion, बताइए. Smell and जलता है. So correct. So I am a smart marketing guy. I go to the office and tell कि सर Dettol को तोड़ना होना तो दो चीज है. हमने रिसर्च किया 80% of people से जलता है और बदबू मारता है. तो I come out with a product which जलता भी नहीं है और खुशबू भी आती है. And I same time go to the same consumer and say कि ये नया यूज करो, तो बोलता है जलता नहीं है तो काम नहीं करता है. So research is not statistical research कि वो इतना percentage of people have said. There are certain things people don't speak, or when they speak they don't mean that. So that research has to be properly done, understand all these failures, why it happened. It may be a cultural issue, it may be pricing issue, it may be product issue. Preempt that. Just don't come and launch a product. It happens with a lot of startups. I've been interacting with a lot of startups. They are in love with their product idea. If you criticize that, they don't feel good, right? They feel offended and they feel this is not a good advisor, right? So they want to listen what they have in their mind, and that's why they fail. People are rarely becoming a unicorn here, ever. Yeah. Somebody, yeah.
What lesson can you give to new startup which are establishing today?
So bring up a startup which is required in the market. Go to the consumer. Don't sit in the conference rooms and think about an idea which is going to be sold to the consumer. If you want to market, go to the market. 80% people don't go to the market. They don't talk to the consumer. They talk to the consumer who are their friends, who will never say bad about you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So there are some startups like Byju's and Oyo. Why did they fail? Can you tell me more
See,
about
first of all, they didn't miserably fail. They're still surviving, right? They had calculation mistakes, they had estimation mistakes, and they made some investment in certain places where they should have not. So read those things, and you'll come to know about it. Right? Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Sir, what is the importance of branding in a B2B model? And if it is important, how to create one? Because, there are like Ford is a brand, Honda is a brand, but there are many sub companies which supply to these big brands. How important
They
is
become
branding?
OEMs, right?
Yeah, the
Right.
OEMs.
So, see, image is important to any category, whether it's B2C or B2B. So when I went to, if I want to sell a genset, why should I buy this genset, not this one, when the prices are same? Or why should I pay more? Not just because of technology. The other things like peace of mind है यार, आप किर्लोस्कर का genset लोगे तो peace of mind है, बहुत पुरानी कंपनी है, जान पहचान सर्विस अच्छी है. So you create that image in the minds of the people. You may be a completely new person who come to the market, give you new technology. It takes a lot of time. So principles are same. You create brands because when your target audience wants to buy He should consider your brand and may pay you more.
But sir, if the target audience is another business, then is branding important?
ना ना इस अदर बिजनेस क्यों है? B2B बा परचेज मैनेजर होगा, राइट? मैं टाटा से आता हूँ और आप चंपकलाल कंपनी जनरेटर लेके आते हैं, क्यों टाटा खरीदेगा वो? जनसेट तो दोनों टेक्निकल टेस्टिंग कर लेगा, सब कुछ करेगा टेस्ट वो, उसके बाद why will he give you a premium? Why will still insist in buying from Tata? There's an image. So please remove this misconception myth that B2B doesn't require branding. B2B actually has spent more than B2C consumers also. They go to exhibitions which they spend 50 lakh rupees, 40 lakh rupees. They go international conference exhibitions and events. They spend sometimes more than B2C. Their target audience may be different. Their people who are deciding may be different. But the principles of branding never change. There also you have to create an image.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Sure, thank you for coming. Thank you. Aayega, sir. Thank you.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I enjoyed your lecture. Thank you so much. So there was one particular example you gave was the cosmopolitan example with the yogurt. So in that case, if you have one area like the magazine area and you're going into the food area, so what are your thoughts on wanting to actually, produce a food product as a cosmopolitan magazine? How would we go about that?
As I've been again repeating it, you may come out with an extension which is not relevant to your category, right? You may come up, but you have to first find out whether the consumer will accept it or not, this name.
Can we come up with a different name?
Yeah, you can, from the house of cosmopolitan.
Okay.
Small written in the bottom, so that you take the leverage of the already established brand.
Fair enough.
But then that is the brand architecture which you're working on. Right, so there is a lot of architecture which is involved, like from the house of XYZ brand. So you create a new brand and then come out with this. Like for example, a few years back, Zydus came out with, they were a skincare company. So they had Everyouth, but they wanted to launch in the men's category. So they came out with Everyouth men's, or Everyouth was small and men's was big in fonts. And when you see it, you feel it's a brand called men's. So Everyouth was just giving the credibility to that brand because they knew skincare more than anybody else.
Did it succeed?
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So a weird question. Sanjay sir.
1 minute, sir. Yeah.
So I think Apple is known for its ecosystem and premiumness. So every other guy is having Apple products. Would you ever think that Apple will fail as a product or service in the future?
Product or service? I didn't get your question.
So according to me, Apple is famous for the premiumness and the ecosystem. So would you ever think like in today's era, every other guy is having Apple products. So will they fail in the future just because they are losing their premiumness?
No, who said they're losing their premiumness? They keep innovating. They embrace the technology to the great extent. Apple is called a cult brand. People who consume Apple products, they are a different type of people. They believe that it's a cult brand. It's a different type of branding where people like Harley Davidson. It's a cult brand. Harley Davidson, agar aap chalate ho, you will be a different type of person. So that's why they have got this Harley group, Harley owners group. Yeah, so it's a cult brand. Yeah. Yeah, Subhajit. See, I don't know the nitty-gritty of the logistics and the financial commitments out there, but if you have a doubt, you have the right doubts, right? I can't comment on that. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
So
see,
when do we...
Subhajit, you also need brands like that, na? Yeah.
So when do we call it a brand fail? Because when OnePlus had its tagline that never settle, so in some of the countries, a man went on marrying more females that never settle with one. So that was a failure there. But yet the company has the same tagline till now. So when do we call it a brand fail?
Yeah, because the guy was marrying many times. So what is the connect between one mobile and him?
Yeah, he actually put the message on the social media and also came in the news channel that
such people will always be there. XDO का नाम सुना आपने? XDO.
Yeah.
XDO.
Yeah.
आपको क्या लगता है? आप लगाओगे तो women will fall out on you.
No.
But still you like it, na? Because it's a good feel good factor. And Gillette has done global research, and they came out with an output saying कि biologically all male will follow female, but they want to reverse it. And that is the insight. That's why these DO companies, they work on that platform, right? So one man saying, X में भी लिखा था लोगों ने, मैं तो लगा तो कुछ होता ही नहीं है, तो उसने बोला ही नहीं कि मैं लगाने से ही होता है, उसने बोला कि ऐसा फील होता है. That's a good thing which was an unmet need in the consumer, and that was met.
So we only map the brand fail by the drop in sales?
Not necessarily. Collapse भी हो सकता है, पूरा हट जाना चाहिए कंपनी से. They can rebirth भी हो सकता है उसका. But usually technical terms it is the sales, yeah.
Thank you.
What is the reason for success of Arvind Kejriwal brand in spite of having so many products?
No, I'm saying you, how did Arvind Kejriwal come into picture? That's very important. I don't comment on political brands, but still if you ask me, that was a great opportunity where he came up. How did you come to know Arvind Kejriwal? Because of that agitation which was happening? So that was the right time. So right time it was there, na? When there was a crisis, he made his brand. वो crisis नहीं होता, वो brand बनता ही नहीं. समझ रहे हो? तो same way, many times a brand can evolve because of the crisis. Crisis नहीं होता. Crisis is entirely different than brand failures. Their crisis may be tactical in nature. Yeah. Last question. Yeah.
Uber has come up with Uber Eats also. Ola is also come. What is the status now? They are also going to fail.
No, who said it's going to fail?
Nobody is using that.
They are not giving you Gadi. They are giving you the logistic help.
Yeah, Ola Eats.
They are giving Uber. It will be giving you logistic help.
No,
Then
it is serving the food also.
food. Logistic help in giving the food.
You can order from the restaurant also.
See, they might. What I'm saying, it is too early to comment on that. The reason is that they might have done a good research because they've been in this country many years. They will have the consequences if it's not accepted. अगर food कहाँ से आता है? Whatever I heard that they will also come to know कि from the like Swiggy they are going to so they will do that type of things. But it doesn't matter ना कि कौन आपका खाना लेके आ रहा है. आपको खाना matter करता है. Yeah, बस.
Just one request to all, please fill up the feedback form and give it to our person here. One last question, please. Oh, here.
Thank you for your presentation. How do you assess the financial impact of a brand failure? Like apart from lack of sales, what other metrics would you put into consideration as you want to assess a financial impact?
So as I told you in the last slide, don't keep auditing the equity of your brand, right? You have to keep. It's not only sales, but there has to be an equity. तो वो equity का brand health checkup करिए बार-बार. पता चलेगा what do you think that it should be perceived as. It's not been that way.
Are there companies who specialize in
Creating this, not in Gujarat, but in Mumbai and Delhi, you have those things. So they calculate the equity of your. आप कैसे बेचोगे नहीं तो company? How can a 350 crore company be sold in 1,100 crore company? The company doesn't decide. It's a third-party audit which is done. They do the research of the stakeholders, consumers, everyone. Yeah, brand capital is one of them. Brand Republic is there, right? So they do that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful session. If still anyone has questions, he's here for some time. So, but we'll close the session here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Ajay bhai. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Bye.